So, welcome to our session. I and my colleague Yordan will be presenting some news about the new WebIDE of Eclipse Dirigible. So, do you know what Eclipse Dirigible is? Probably it's obviously Eclipse project. It's under the Eclipse Cloud Development top-level project with sister projects like Eclipse Che, Eclipse Orion, Eclipse Thea. So we are part of this. So yesterday, not yesterday, on Tuesday, we had feedback that probably in the beginning of the session we have to say a little bit more general what the project is. So for today, I decided just to put some, okay, this is the agenda, what we will be talking about. And next few slides, I decided just to take some slides from 2015, which shows that the main concepts of the project and the idea hasn't changed. Only the technology things changed. Okay. So first, the information that you need, you can find in dirigible.io. And what do we believe in? So the most important thing for us, and we believe that this is the most important feature for developers, is the development turnaround time. So this is something that we strive to achieve as much as possible. We believe that the most productive development model is in system development. So you have a live system, you just go into it and try start to change, to alter the live system immediately. The next thing is interesting. So we develop our tooling and the overall platform in the way we like it and use it. So we are the customer of the platform itself. So that's why we pull the right features, because we know the right features, what we need. It is the absolute pull principle. So the next one, we believe also that the development environment has to provide the full coverage, complete feature set for a vertical scenario. Persistence, REST service layer, user interface, workflows, messaging, job scheduling, etc., etc. So everything that is needed for business application developers. And the development environment should give an options. So we just build something that we like, but if somebody else doesn't like it, you have to be able to change it. And probably the last one was that the development environment have to cover the full life cycle of application management. So it's not just that we have design phase or development phase, but having in mind that we have this in system development, you can cover the full life cycle of the application. Okay, so let's start with the overview of the Eclipse Dirigible WebIDE. So what is new? In the previous version, we were based on Eclipse Wrap, if you know that project. So it's just Eclipse SWT, JFace APIs that are rendered in the browser. And it was something like Dirigible was called Web Eclipse or something like this. But at some point of time, because of the complexity of the Equinox, Maven, Taiho, or CI around this, we decided to yeah, we received feedback and we decided to rebuild the WebID stuff and to use architecture and frameworks that we prefer and that our customers prefer to build their own applications. So we use AngularJS, Bootstrap, jQuery to build the WebID itself. At the moment, we integrated Orion, Monaco, and Ace Editor. So probably you know Orion. It's the oldest one. Monaco is the VS Code editor. So we integrated it as well. And Ace Editor is Cloud9 WebID editor. Another thing that is important is that the new WebID is really the client-side thing, and it connects to the backend ID services via the RESTful layer, which is fully described with a Swagger notation. So this helps us to have a clear contract between the ID part, the client side, and the backend side. Also, thanks to Bootstrap that we use for this theming stuff, we built several themes, but it's very easy to use just Bootstrap, to build your own themes to match your corporate styling and so. Okay. The next thing, on-the-fly extensibility, is something very interesting that my colleague Yordan will show just in a few minutes. You can develop your extensions, ID extensions like perspective, views, or editors in the WebID itself, in the dirigible WebID, and you can apply afterwards and this perspective and views, and you immediately, after refresh of the browser, you can see the result of your work. It's updated, it's there. Okay, sometimes just the code editor is not enough. It's much better to have form-based editors. So we have built several of them. So you can use them as a patterns and easily can contribute your own form editors. For extensions, we built some Angular directives. So it's very easy to build your own perspective and views. The last point to explain that, so you see there are several views here, editors, and the top level frame. All of them you can imagine just as verticals. They are totally separated and self-contained stuff. They have user interface stuff and backend stuff. They are just verticals. And to be able to communicate between the views, because these are the iframes, we use messaging. So you can send a message or subscribe the message sent by somebody else. Okay, so this is the workbench. We'll go through the whole perspective just to have an idea what could be achieved with this new technology that we use for Eclipse Dirigible WebID. So this is the workbench. You can create workspaces, so multiple user, multiple workspaces. There are RESTful services to cover this. You can create projects, files, you can have modelers, etc. So this is the architecture, simplified view of the architecture. You have the web frameworks here running in the browser, the client side. We have these RESTful services, which most probably will require some engines to execute the stuff. And the content is stored in a repository, which could be file-based repository or database repository, but all the content is here in this repository. So the next one is database perspective. What I wanted to say here is, okay, this is the layout view of the target database. You can connect multiple databases and use them. For instance, this one is JS3, jQuery plugin. This one is Angular. This one is Ace Editor. So it's very powerful. I mean, you can embed whatever component you like. Okay. We support debugging, which is backed by Mozilla Rhino engine at the moment. And we have planned to adapt also the V8 engine for debugging. So we have it as an execution engine currently, but for debugger we still use Rhino. But it's fully functional. I mean, it's multi-user, multi-session. You can start several debug sessions and you can debug your code. Okay, we have Git perspective. The idea is, okay, you have in-system development, but you work, you make your application, generate it or create it from scratch, and at some point of time, you decide that it's done for now. And of course, you can go in the Git perspective and push to the Git repository. Standard things. Okay. We have also documents perspective. It's a CMIS-based engine which is integrated in the backend. We have built-in, or we can communicate with managed service or remote service. The idea is just to have a place outside of the workspace that you can store some binary data or some Word documents or something like this, which is related to your application, for instance. Okay, editors. These are the 3 editors that we have at the moment. I'm not sure whether you recognize the difference, but the first one is Orion, the second one is Ace Editor, and the last one is Monaco. So we use for glue coding in the business application, for the business language, we use JavaScript. And in this case, we have much better integration in Orion for these cross-file references. So when you start, for instance, to debug this code in this file, and it uses some other modules via require clause, the debugger itself will open and will continue the execution to the dependent module. Also, the same is valid for the code completion, for instance. You can define a module with require, you can include it here, and when you create an object from this module, you have full code completion of methods which are exported from the other one. Okay, modelers. What we have here is interesting probably for you is that we have fully functional modelers for relational database schema. So you can create model tables, views to set some parameters in it. when you save it and publish it, it immediately, or almost immediately, will be materialized in the target database. The other one is the, okay, so the database modeler is behind that, but yeah, Yordan can show you during the demo. And this one is entity data modeler. So you can model entity domain model of your application. And after that, out of it, you can generate a full stack application with Launchpad, CRUD, forms, even for master detail stuff. So full-fledged application, which on the other hand is also extendable. And what you generate, the technology that we use, is again based on the same technology that we use for the WebIDE itself. Okay, something that I forget to mention. The graphical framework here is MXGraph. Okay. Another thing that we use also jQuery plugin is this terminal. It goes via HTTP, not via SSH, so you can directly have access and execute commands on the operating system on the target instance, if you need it. Okay, most recent one, we added a perspective for discussions. So probably if you have a team that works on this instance and want to collaborate, to ask questions to the other guys in the other room, and yeah, you know, it's much better just to go via discussion perspective and to ask questions here. Okay. Another important thing that we recently added is plugin registry. So the idea behind that is to be a fully functional marketplace, let's say. So we have different depots that are configured. This is just a JSON file with the depots file, and the depot should contain the plugins JSON, which describes where are the Git repository of the extension itself. So in Dirigible, we don't do special things. It's just a Git repository. We clone it for Git and publish it on the instance itself. Activate it, let's say. And that's it. No build, no deploy, no anything like this. So, for the extension, Yordan will show the demo, but these are the extension points. So you can create perspective, view, editor, menu, and template. All of them are contained in a standard Eclipse Dirigible projects. So they are, again, nothing special. These are the directives that I mentioned. So it's very easy. You just use sidebar here in your index.html for the perspective, and you have sidebar. And it will be populated based on the extensions which are contribute the content to the extension point for the perspectives. So it's automatically done. You just need this line. That's it. Okay, message hub. We have some more sophisticated API on top of this, but these are the general APIs that we use. Okay, some themes. You can change them on the fly. Okay, custom stack. In Dirigible, we use a little bit layering principle here. So for the core part of the of the app server, we use some Java modules. We also use some Java frameworks, some mature stuff like Quartz, like ActiveMQ, Flowable, etc., which are integrated. They are mature stuff, which most probably you won't go on to change. So this is not the dynamic things that we want in for the application for Eclipse Dirigible, but this is just the baseline. So something like the operation system layer for you. And on top comes the Dirigible applications content that you create with Dirigible. All these table models, schema models, server-side JavaScript services or client-side stuff, everything you can imagine just as a content from the repository, these different projects, that what we propose here and what we use to pack them in like web jars. So probably you know what web jars is, just the content in a jar file, and afterwards, during the runtime, it can be accessed by the class loader to load as resources. And why we did it? Because in this way, we can use the whole already really mature CI for Java development. So we have jars, we have Maven Central, we can publish our stuff, you can create just a POM XML and add dependency in very standard way, and you can first create your own stack, Dirigible stack. Also, you can put your own custom application content. So for instance, at runtime, at production, you may need only the core part of Dirigible and your application content only. So you don't need WebIDE and such things, right? So you are able to do that. In the other, it's possible also vice versa. If you have a application server and some legacy application, JE application, for instance, you can embed just some modules from Dirigible. You can embed them into your legacy application and use it for this dynamicity. Okay, so if you want, you can go on the trial instance Swagger JSON to have a look what kind of RESTful ID backend services we have. They're fully described. You can inspect them. There are some get, post, delete, put requests. Just try it if you want. The good thing and interesting thing is that based on this Swagger, you can generate your backend, for instance, in Node.js or in Go. So it doesn't need to be Java. Of course, we have some proof of concepts still. So we prove that it's possible, but let's see whether we will be able to, yeah, in the near future, to implement different backend than the Java. Although it will be much more limited in the functionality, but at least to create workspace projects, to have publishing and to execute JavaScript backend services, it should be fine. Okay, these are the form-based editors that we have. So just to get an idea, there are security constraints which are, so dynamically you can set constraints on locations on some services. So this can be done dynamically based on the roles of the logged in user. You can create listeners. So we have internal message ActiveMQ message hub. So you can have a listener when some message is received in a queue or topic. You can attach some backing service that is a callback. It can be executed. The same is for job, scheduler jobs, also tables, views, and yeah, they are clear. Extension pointers extensions are the descriptors of the exactly this extensibility. So everything in the Eclipse Dirigible is based on extensions, so there is no exception. Okay, so then go to the demo part.
Okay, so we have less than 10 minutes, but actually all I need is free. So when the screen is up and running, I can show the things. Yeah. Do I need to change something? No? Okay. You know, with this new Mac, new USB-C things, from time to time it's difficult to get them working. Okay, by the way, can we try if your laptop it should be also working? It's, yeah. We had one.
It should be the same, but
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully, no. Okay, that's not good. Yes, so now something about my side. Oh, okay, great. So that's perfect. We have like 5 minutes. It's more than enough. I need 3. Okay, so very quickly, this is the, okay, so you don't see a thing. We'll do it then that way. No. Good, fine. So this is the dirigible ID, and very quickly, thanks to this golden layout, you can do all kind of things like moving perspectives, views, and so on. This is the cool part, and the way to reset this is go here to the applications and clear the stuff, reload, boom, it's reset. But we actually plan to have such a button here in the UI, and so it won't be so techy. Okay, what I want to show now is how to create a new view here in the dirigible IDE with a new perspective. So if you count, here are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 perspectives. And right now I'm going to create a new one. So here in the Dirigible Labs organization, we have several demo repositories that we're going to use for the EclipseCon. After the session, you can go there and actually try it very quickly with this Run on Dirigible button. And you have two options. If you have Dirigible installed locally, you can run it locally. If not, you can go to our trial landscape. It's hosted on the Eclipse. You don't need even to log in, just type some nickname and boom, it's out there. Okay, so I'm going to run it to my instance. And here's what is happening. Yeah, maybe you don't saw it, but here in the console, a few things get cloned. If I refresh my ID, my workspace, I will see that here is new ID layout project, and refresh here, boom, here's our view, this hello world, and here's our new perspective, the map here. Okay, so good, so far so good. But let's see actually what we have to do to get such a view and perspective working. We have like 7 files here. This one is a system1 file, so it doesn't matter. We have the view itself, which is really simple, just a pure HTML. What we have also, we have a view extension, which is more interesting. So here is the extension point to all ID views. Here is the implementation of the extension. So if I go to the view.js, I can see some metadata for the view. So where it should be placed, where it's located, and what icon should it have, and so on. The same thing is for the perspective extension. You just point to another extension point with another perspective.js implementation, which is located here. And yeah, you have order, image, link, name, all kind of this stuff. Okay, so this is the first demo. Just let me close these things. And the second one is a little bit more comprehensive. We have two views in a new perspective, and we are talking to each other via this message hub. So again, the experience is the same, run on Dirigible. We're using this for demo purposes, of course. Yeah, but it's cool. Wait a little bit to get the things synchronized. I'll wait a little bit to be published. Refresh a couple of times. Clear my application storage because of the things that I said earlier, and here it is. So what is this? This is our new perspective. Here is that book down there. Of course, you can go back to see other perspective, move around, and so on. But here is the interesting part. We have like a kind of a guestbook application, demo application. So I will tell my review will be the EclipseCon 2018 was really great, and I can submit. Okay, so I will say Nedelcho was here also. Okay, so it's nothing special, and we're actually in memory, so if I refresh it, everything is gone. But what is the interesting part here? If I go to the project itself, yeah, this one, it has more folders because we have a few more files, and I want it to be structurized. And what we have here, we have one perspective, two views, some image that is used for the GitHub repository. Again, this system file project.json, and the steering interesting part here are in the controllers, where we have this message hub. So this controller for the guestbook is really simple. It's subscribed for the guestbook.add_review event, and after such event is fired, what we do, we hook up on the event, get the data, and in our case the data is actually the review itself, add it to an array of reviews and display it in the user interface. For the for the reviews, what we have a similar thing, but we post messages to this event, and everyone that is subscribed for the guestbook.add_reviews event will be notified for when the event is fired. Okay, so the last thing that I want to show you is the index.html. With this menu bar, sidebar that Nedelcho told earlier. And actually the really cool thing is that here in this layout model, you can say which are the views that are contributed and should be loaded with this perspective. So if I do a quick experiment, and if I check who are the all possible views,